Hey guys, today we'll be going over how to create active links in Shopify using the Liquid templating language. Okay, so I'll show you the end result real quick. This is one of our clients' e-commerce store, and one of the requirements or requests is to easily make the product searchable or filtered by collections. So here in this shop by category list on the left sidebar, you can see these buttons are representation of collections. So these are individual collections, and when you click them, it updates the page. It also updates the URL, and it updates the whole template in general. So when I click on keto meals, it shows the products that are in the keto meals selection or collection. Now the challenge is when I click on a tag button here on the sidebar, how do I make this button active, right? So there's a couple things involved. So we need to let Shopify know, or we need to know the current URL or the current page the customer or visitor is viewing. And then we need to determine if this URL is the same as the collection URL. And if so, make it active or put the active class on, which makes this a background orange and lets the user know or visitor know that, hey, currently you're viewing the low carb diet collection, and so on and so forth. So let's dive in the code. Okay, so what you're seeing now is the code editor in Shopify, and we are editing the collection list nav snippet, which is shown here by the Shopify sidebar. So the problem we're trying to solve is how can we assign a active class here to the LI or to the list item, which in turn makes it applies the class styles to that specific collection button, turns it orange, right? So that's what you see here. I just put it on every single one of them so you can kind of see the after effect we're trying to go for. So let's take this active class off. Now the first thing we need to do is make sure that we assign, we need to grab the current URL, the page, current URL of the page, right? So we need to first set a variable. That way we could capture the page URL. So what we'll do is assign current URL equal to canonical URL. So what this does is canonical URL grabs the full absolute path or URL of the current page. And so what I'm doing is just assigning it to this variable called current URL. Next, we want to set an if statement saying if this current URL matches the collection URL, then apply the active class to that specific collection button. Now there's a different way we're going to do that. I know there's multiple ways, just a disclaimer, there's multiple ways to solve this, but I kind of use this as the easiest way for me to understand and to solve the problem. So feel free to comment below if you have any other solutions that solve the similar problem. So what we're going to do is create a if statement saying if current URL, we're going to use the contains keyword, liquid, that pretty much says, hey, if this URL contains the collection title, then we're going to simply put the active class. We're going to put the active class in the list item. So let's close this end if. And we're going to copy this conditional into the list item class. And let's clean this up a little bit. And so what we're saying here is, let me just walk through the code. First of all, we're assigning the canonical URL, which is the full absolute path of the current page the visitor is on. We're assigning that to a variable called current URL. Then when we're rendering these collection buttons, we want to say, okay, for every collection in a whole list of collections that's created, let's create this list item element that basically let's create a button for each of these collections, right? And so within this collection for loop, we're grabbing the collection title and assigning it to this variable called page title, and using this conditional statement, we're saying, hey, if the current URL contains the page title URL or contains the page title of the collection, then add the class active. And I'll kind of show you, once we save this, I'll show you why that's true. Okay, and then this ahref element simply just grabs that collection URL. So then it creates a link and then a couple other things it's doing. Okay, so let's save this and let's see what we get. All right, so looks like it's not working. So let's I think I set the okay, I know what I did. Okay, so in our conditional, if current URL contains page title, now a good thing to note is the page title could be completely different from the actual collection handle name. And the collection handle, all that means is the name that you give it in the URL, right? So we want to make sure that this absolute URL path, which is the canonical URL, if it contains this the collection handle, which is this end right here, then put the active class on the current collection button, which you see now, right? We're on keto meals and the button is highlighted. Now, if we go to any other buttons or collections, we should see the same thing, right? We're on the breakfast page. You see here, breakfast, and the breakfast button is highlighted. If you open up the console or developer tools, we could actually see that the current URL list item, open this up, has this class of active, right? And this is the only collection button that has the active class. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and I'll try to get back to you. If you have any other solutions to solve this active button problem, then feel free to comment it below, and appreciate all your support and feedback. Once again, always be learning, always be creating, and be blessed. All right, guys, take it easy.